The galaxy was ruled by the Council of Stars, a powerful group of alien races that controlled thousands of worlds. They had strict laws, and every species was forced to obey. For centuries, no one had dared to challenge them. To the Council, order was everything, and obedience was survival. Then came a discovery that shook the Council. A small planet on the edge of the galaxy, covered with blue oceans and green lands, had given birth to a new intelligent species. These creatures called themselves humans. At first, the Council believed it would be simple. They had controlled larger empires and crushed stronger races, so humans would be no different. The first contact was polite but cold. Alien envoys arrived at Earth in silver ships that hovered in the skies. They told humans about the Council's rules. They explained that every new species must surrender weapons, give tribute, and follow the ancient laws of the galaxy. They expected fear and obedience, but the humans did not kneel. The human leaders met the envoys in a great hall filled with banners of Earth. The aliens waited for them to bow, but the humans stood tall. Their voices were steady, their eyes calm. They listened carefully to every word, and then they gave a simple answer: "We do not follow rules made by strangers." The alien envoys were shocked. Never before had a young species refused. The Council had crushed mighty empires. Yet these humans dared to speak as equals. The envoys warned them of punishment, of fleets and weapons beyond imagination. But the humans did not tremble. Instead, they said, "We will decide our own future." News of this meeting spread quickly through the galaxy. The Council laughed at first. They believed humans were arrogant children. They thought Earth would soon be conquered and broken. But whispers began to rise among other alien races. Many had lived under the Council's rule for centuries, tired of chains and endless laws. The story of humans refusing to bow spread like fire, and in secret, others began to hope. The Council decided to test the humans. A grand gathering was called on the planet Arcturus, where alien leaders from hundreds of species assembled in a vast shining hall of crystal and steel. Human representatives were invited. The Council planned to humiliate them before the galaxy. When the human delegation arrived, they walked with steady steps. Their uniforms were simple, not filled with jewels or bright colors like the aliens. But their eyes burned with a quiet fire. The hall was silent as they entered. Every alien expected them to bow, to lower their heads before the mighty Council. But the humans stood straight, their hands behind their backs, unshaken. An alien commander with scaled skin and burning eyes stepped forward. His voice echoed through the hall. "You will obey the Council. You will surrender your weapons. You will give your tribute. That is the law of the stars." He leaned close, expecting fear, but the human captain smiled. The human's words were calm, almost gentle, yet filled with iron. "We don't follow rules," he said. "We make them." The hall fell silent. Aliens looked at one another in shock. Never had such words been spoken in front of the Council. For a moment, even the mighty rulers felt a flicker of fear. The commander roared in anger. His hand reached for his weapon. But the human did not move. He simply stared, unflinching. The silence stretched. The Council realized something dangerous in that moment. Humans were not like other species. They were not afraid to die. They were not afraid to fight. And worst of all, they were not afraid to stand alone. The meeting ended in chaos. Some aliens whispered of rebellion. Some feared the Council would unleash its fleets. The humans walked away without looking back, their words still echoing in the chamber. From that day, the galaxy changed. The Council had tried to control humans, but instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous, a species that would not kneel, a species that believed freedom mattered more than fear. And though the Council laughed on the surface, deep inside, they began to worry, because if humans could defy them, then maybe others could too. The Council of Stars had ruled for ages. They believed their power was endless, and no species could ever stand against them. But after the meeting on Arcturus, when a human captain declared that his people made their own rules, the Council was shaken. For the first time in centuries, their authority had been openly defied in front of the galaxy. The Council gathered in secret chambers high above the shining towers of the capital world. Alien leaders from different races argued among themselves. Some wanted to crush humans quickly. to send fleets and burn their cities until nothing remained. Others were cautious. They remembered the steady look in the humans' eyes, the calm tone of their voices. They feared that such defiance might spread if handled wrongly. Finally, the council decided to act with a show of power, but not yet with full war. They chose a test. They would demand the humans hand over their weapons and technology within one cycle of the moons. If humans refused, the council promised to destroy one of Earth's colonies in space as punishment. They believed fear would break this young species, just as it had broken so many others before. The message was sent to Earth, on the blue planet. Leaders gathered in underground chambers where maps of the stars glowed on the walls. Generals and scientists argued over what to do. Some wanted to avoid conflict, fearing the destruction that might come. But others believed this was a chance to prove what humanity truly was. In the center of the chamber, the same captain who had spoken at Archytas stood tall. His voice carried through the room. They think we will bow. They think we will tremble, but we're not afraid of their threats. We will not give them our weapons because our weapons are not just steel and fire. Our true weapon is our will. His words spread through every level of human society. Soldiers trained harder, scientists worked faster, and ordinary people prepared for the worst. Humanity was united by something the council could not understand. Humans were stubborn, and when pushed, they became stronger. Meanwhile, on a distant colony orbiting a red star, the council sent a warning fleet. Dozens of alien warships appeared in the sky, their engines glowing like suns. The alien commander, a towering figure with silver armor and cruel eyes, sent a message to the humans on the colony. Obey the council, or your world will burn. But the humans on that colony did not kneel either. They gathered in the open square, men, women, and children, standing shoulder to shoulder. Their answer was simple: we do not belong to the council. The commander grew furious. He ordered his troops to march into the city. Alien soldiers with plasma rifles lined the streets. Their boots shook the ground. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. The council expected the humans to scatter, to hide in fear, but instead, the humans stood firm. The commander gave one last warning, but the human governor, an older man with gray hair and a steady gaze, stepped forward. If you strike us, the governor said, you will learn that humans do not break. We bend, we bleed, but we do not break. The alien commander hesitated. Never before had defiance lasted this long. In that pause, something unexpected happened. Human ships appeared on the horizon of space, small compared to the massive alien fleet, but fast and agile. They darted through the void like hunters, striking suddenly at weak points in the enemy formation. Explosions lit the sky. The council's fleet found itself outmaneuvered. The aliens had larger ships, stronger weapons, and more numbers, but the humans fought with creativity. They did not follow the usual rules of battle. They hid in asteroid fields, they attacked from the shadows, and they sacrificed ships to save others. The aliens, trained only to fight by strict formations, could not adapt. Their fleets stumbled, their commands faltered. In the end, the council's fleet withdrew, battered and humiliated. The human colony still stood, untouched. The news spread like fire across the galaxy. Small races whispered in hidden places. The humans stood against them, and they survived. Back on the council's homeworld, rage filled the chambers. The alien leaders shouted, demanding revenge. But beneath their anger lay something far more dangerous. For the first time in ages, the council felt fear. They had tried to make an example of humans, but instead, humans had made an example of them. Across the stars, stories began to grow, tales of human defiance, of human courage, of human chaos and battle. The galaxy listened, and the galaxy wondered if humans could resist the council. Maybe anyone could. And as the council prepared for war, the humans prepared for something greater. They were not just fighting for Earth. They were fighting to prove a truth that could not be erased. In a galaxy of rules and chains, humanity was a spark of fire. A spark that would soon set everything ablaze. The galaxy had watched in silence as the first human defiance spread like thunder. The Council of Stars, once untouchable, had been challenged not with mighty fleets or endless armies, but with something far more dangerous: human will. The failed attempt to crush the colony near the Red Star had exposed a weakness the galaxy had long forgotten. The Council was not invincible. News traveled faster than ships. Alien traders carried whispers through spaceports. Smugglers told stories in the shadows of distant stations, and enslaved species spoke in hushed voices across broken worlds. The name of humanity began to grow like a storm. In every corner of the galaxy, beings repeated the same words. The humans did not bow. For many races, these words were dangerous. To even think about disobedience was a crime. But the seed of rebellion is small, and once planted, it grows. On mining worlds where alien workers labored under cruel overseers, quiet songs began to spread, songs about humans who stood tall before the Council. On desert planets where tribes had been forced into servitude, children whispered of Earth people who fought without fear. The Council tried to control the story. They sent out propaganda broadcasts, declaring humans reckless, weak, and doomed. They called them children playing at war. They promised the galaxy that humanity would soon be broken, but their voices sounded hollow. Their lies were thin, because every race had already seen the truth with their own eyes. Meanwhile, humans themselves became symbols. Their defiance was not just in battles, but in the way they lived on colonies across the stars. Human settlers welcomed alien refugees. They shared food, shelter, and knowledge. They spoke words of unity instead of fear. To many oppressed races, this was something they had never known: hope. The Council grew restless. They understood that humans were not just fighting wars with ships and weapons. They were waging a war of ideas, and ideas spread faster than any fleet. In secret, some alien leaders reached out to humanity. On a frozen world in the Outer Rim, a group of rebel envoys met with human captains in a hidden cave lit by flickering fire. Their bodies shivered in the cold, but their voices burned with passion. "We have lived under the Council's chains for generations," one said, his voice trembling with emotion. "But if you stand against them, then maybe we can too." The human captain looked at them, his face hard but kind. "We will not promise victory," he said, "but we will promise that we will never bow. If you fight with us, then together we will show the galaxy that no law is stronger than freedom." The words echoed in the cave, and for the first time in their lives, the rebels felt free. Back on the Council's homeworld, fear spread like poison. Reports came in of uprisings in the border colonies, of soldiers refusing to fire on civilians, of ships vanishing into the stars to join the humans. The Council leaders raged, demanding harsher punishments. But punishment only fed the fire. For every world they crushed, two more rose in rebellion. In the great halls of power, the Council debated endlessly. Some wanted to exterminate humanity before it was too late. Others feared that such a move would only prove humanity right. But deep inside, they all knew the truth. The galaxy had already begun to change. And through it all, humans did not stop. They moved quietly, whispering encouragement, sending aid, teaching others how to fight not just with weapons, but with courage. Humanity was like a spark carried by the wind, landing on dry grass across the stars. Every world it touched began to burn with defiance. Yet even as hope grew, danger grew as well. For the Council was not ready to surrender. They began to prepare something darker, something that would test humanity like never before. A trap was being set, hidden beneath promises of peace, waiting for the moment to close its jaws. But humans were not blind. They knew the Council's ways. They knew that power built on fear would never give up easily. And so, they prepared, not just for war, but for the storm of betrayal that was about to fall upon them. The seeds of rebellion had been planted, and across the galaxy, they had begun to bloom. The Council had tried to control humans, but instead, humans had given the galaxy something it had long forgotten: the courage to dream of freedom. The Council of Stars could feel their grips slipping. Entire sectors whispered of rebellion. Entire worlds spoke the human name with hope for the Council. This was poison. If left unchecked, humanity's defiance would spread until the whole galaxy burned with revolt. They needed to end this, and they needed to end it quickly. So the Council designed a trap. They announced a Great Peace Summit, a chance to resolve the tension and avoid war. The invitation was sent across the galaxy. Leaders from dozens of species were called to attend, and humanity was given a place of honor. On the surface, it was a gesture of diplomacy, but in truth, the summit was bait. The real plan was simple. Once the human delegation arrived, the council would surround them, capture them, and broadcast their surrender to every corner of the galaxy. The image of humans kneeling would crush the rebellion before it spread further. It was not just a trap for humans. It was a trap for hope itself. The meeting place was chosen carefully, the glittering city of Veros, built on the edge of a shining sea. Towers of crystal reached into the sky, while great banners of the council fluttered in the wind. The streets were lined with soldiers disguised as guards of honor, hidden weapons ready to strike at the first command. But the council had forgotten one thing. Humans had studied them. Humans understood their games, and humans knew this was not peace, but a stage built for betrayal. The human delegation arrived in a sleek silver ship, modest compared to the grand vessels of the council. As they walked into the summit hall, alien eyes followed their every step. The chamber was vast, filled with light, with a throne-like platform where the council leaders sat. The air was heavy, not with welcome, but with hunger, the hunger of predators waiting for prey. A council speaker, tall and robed in gold, rose to address the hall. His voice echoed through the chamber, smooth but sharp. "We welcome our human guests. Today, we offer peace. Today, we ask you to join the Order of the Stars and surrender your defiance." The hall went quiet. All eyes turned to the human captain leading the delegation. He was calm, his uniform plain, his hands clasped behind his back. He did not bow. He did not kneel. His eyes swept across the chamber as if measuring every shadow, every hidden weapon. "We came for peace," he said, his voice steady. "But peace built on chains is not peace. It is slavery." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The council speaker's smile grew thin. At his hidden signal, the trap was sprung. From the walls, soldiers poured into the chamber. Hundreds of armored figures surrounded the humans. Weapons hummed with deadly light. The council speaker raised his hand, his voice cold. "It is over. You will kneel. You will surrender, or you will die." But the humans did not move. They stood in silence, their eyes locked on their enemies. Then, almost too quietly to hear, the captain spoke. "Now." In that instant, hidden panels in the chamber's ceiling shattered. Small drones, disguised as pieces of decoration, dropped into the hall. They flashed with blinding light, filling the room with smoke and confusion. At the same time, human ships above the city broke formation and unleashed precise strikes on the council's defense towers. Weapons meant to hold the humans captive were destroyed in seconds. The soldiers of the council fired wildly, but the humans were already moving. Their training was not built on rigid formations, but on chaos. They used the smoke as cover, slipping through the enemy lines, striking hard, then vanishing again. For every human soldier, there were 10 council guards, but the guards stumbled in their own confusion. The human captain moved through the chaos like a shadow. His team cut a path through the hall, not to escape, but to prove a point. They reached the council platform itself, standing before the robed leaders who had planned their capture. With smoke swirling around them, the captain stared into their eyes. "You think rules make you strong," he said, his voice like steel. "But rules make you weak. You wait for commands. You wait for permission. Humans do not wait. Humans act. That is why you will never control us." Then, just as quickly as they had entered, the humans vanished. Their ships lifted off from Veros before the council could react, leaving behind only ruins and fear. The trap had failed, worse than failed. Instead of breaking humanity, the council had revealed their true face to the galaxy. Entire species now saw that the council did not seek peace, only control. The humans had walked into the lion's den and walked out alive. In the days that followed, rebellion flared brighter. Across colonies and distant worlds, being shouted the words, "We do not kneel." The humans had turned the council's own trap into a spark that lit the galaxy. The council sat in their ruined chamber, their golden robes torn and their pride shattered. Rage burned in their hearts, but beneath the rage was fear. Humanity had escaped their trap. Humanity had defied them once again, and the galaxy was watching, waiting for the next move. The Council of Stars had never known humiliation like this. The peace summit on Veros was supposed to be their victory, a moment to break humanity and show the galaxy who ruled. Instead, it had become a disaster. Humans had walked into their trap, turned it against them, and escaped with their pride stronger than ever. Now, whispers of rebellion filled the galaxy louder than before. The Council decided enough was enough. They could no longer allow humans to inspire others. They would no longer play games of diplomacy or traps. Now, they would unleash the full power of their fleets. The order was given. Dozens of battle armadas set course for Earth and her colonies. Warships filled the skies of many sectors, their engines burning like stars. To the Council, this was not just war. It was punishment. They wanted to burn humanity into ashes so no one would dare resist them again. On Earth, humanity prepared. They had known this day would come. Scientists worked night and day, upgrading weapons, building faster ships. Engineers turned mining tools into weapons of war. Civilians dug shelters and stockpiled supplies. Yet there was no fear. Instead, there was determination. Humanity had been underestimated for too long, and now they would show the galaxy what it meant to fight as humans. When the Council fleet finally arrived at Earth, the sky lit with fire. Gigantic warships hung above the planet like shadows of doom. Their weapons glowed, ready to erase cities in a single strike. The alien commander sent a final message. This is the end of your defiance. Kneel or perish. The reply came from the human admiral. His face was calm, his voice steady. We do not kneel. Fire if you dare. The first volley came, blazing energy lances cutting through the void. Human defenses roared to life, missiles and cannons firing back. The battle began, and from the very first moment, it was unlike any the Council had ever fought. The Council fought with discipline. Their fleets moved in strict formations, every ship obeying central commands. But humans did not fight that way. They moved like storms, fast, chaotic, unpredictable. Human pilots broke formation, attacked from angles no alien commander would expect. Some sacrificed their ships to protect others. Some used debris as cover. Some turned failure into victory with sheer creativity. The aliens were stronger, but they were rigid. The humans were weaker, but they were free, and freedom gave them something no Council fleet could match. As the hours passed, Council ships began to fall. Massive vessels torn apart by smaller human craft that refused to obey the rules of war. The galaxy watched through hidden channels, seeing for the first time a battle where humans turned chaos into strength. Some called it madness. Others called it brilliance. But all agreed it was terrifying. The breaking point came not in space, but on a colony at the edge of the conflict. The Council tried to land ground forces to crush resistance. Thousands of armored soldiers marched under banners of control, expecting to frighten civilians, but instead they met human militias, farmers with rifles, engineers with explosives, children carrying messages through the rubble. The Council soldiers had numbers, but the humans had spirit, and spirit proved stronger. The alien commander watching from orbit could not believe it. His armies were supposed to crush resistance in minutes. Yet every street became a trap. Every home a fortress. He ordered retreats, then advances, then retreats again. His forces fell into chaos. The Council realized something horrible. Humanity was not fighting alone anymore. On nearby worlds, alien slaves rose up, inspired by human defiance. Ships defected mid-battle. Colonies declared independence. What began as a war against one species was quickly becoming a galaxy-wide storm. And in the center of it all, humans stood tall, not because they were the strongest, but because they refused to break. They fought with fire in their hearts. They fought with clever minds and reckless courage. They fought not just for Earth, but for the idea that no council, no matter how powerful, had the right to rule them. By the end of the battle above Earth, the Council fleet retreated, battered and broken. They had expected to make an example of humanity. Instead, humanity had made an example of them. The galaxy was watching, and the galaxy was learning. The Council leaders sat in their chambers, silent, their faces pale, their pride shattered. They had unleashed their might. But instead of victory, they had sown rebellion. Humanity had reached the breaking point, but it was not humans who broke, it was the Council. The Council of Stars had always believed their rule was eternal. They had crushed rebellions before, erased species from history, and silenced entire worlds with fear, but humanity was different. The harder the Council struck, the stronger humans became, and worse, humanity's courage had spread like wildfire across the galaxy. On distant mining planets, workers laid down their tools and refused to obey. On frozen worlds, old tribes took up weapons against their masters. On hidden stations, smugglers and pirates declared they would no longer bow. Everywhere, the same cry echoed. If humans can fight, so can we. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy moved not under the Council's command, but against it. Rebellions broke out in multiple sectors at once. Stretching the Council's fleets thin, the galaxy, once chained, was now in motion, and at the heart of it all were humans. But humanity did not stand as conquerors. They did not raise their banners over alien cities. Instead, they reached out with open hands. Human soldiers shared food with alien rebels. Human doctors treated wounded from other species. Human engineers taught broken worlds how to build their own defenses. To the galaxy, this was shocking. No one had ever seen power shared instead of hoarded. The Council tried to spread lies. They claimed humans only wanted to replace them, that Earth sought to be the new rulers of the stars. But every act of kindness, every shared victory, tore holes in those lies. The truth was clear. Humans did not want thrones. They wanted freedom, and they wanted others to taste it too. Still, the Council did not surrender. In desperation, they gathered their remaining fleets. They formed massive armadas, each one large enough to burn entire systems. Their plan was brutal. If they could not control the galaxy through order, they would control it through fear. They would make examples of rebellious worlds, even if it meant destroying them completely. Word of this plan reached humanity. A Council fleet was on its way to crush the rebellion on the world of Thaler, a desert planet where both humans and aliens had gathered. Thaler was poor, its cities carved from stone and sand, but it had become a symbol. If it fell, the rebellion might falter. Human commanders knew they had to act. Fleets were scrambled, allies called upon. Ragtag ships from dozens of species gathered under human leadership. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing the most powerful fleet the Council had left. Yet none turned away. They all knew what was at stake. The battle above Thaler began at dawn. The sky lit up as Council warships descended like a storm. Their weapons burned through the void, smashing rebel lines. But this time, humanity was not alone. Alien ships fought beside them, not as slaves, not as servants, but as equals. The Council expected chaos among the rebels. They expected panic. Instead, they saw something they had never faced. Unity. Humans and aliens fought side by side, covering each other, sacrificing for each other. A human pilot saved an alien cruiser from destruction. An alien frigate shielded a human transport with its own hull. Every act of unity made the Council weaker. The battle raged for hours. Space was filled with fire and wreckage. Yet the rebels did not break. And slowly, the tide began to turn. Human tactics of unpredictability spread to their allies. The rigid discipline of the Council crumbled against the chaos of freedom. Their fleets, once so mighty, were broken apart by unity they could not understand. On the surface of Thaler, civilians rose up as well. Council soldiers landed to crush the rebellion, but they were met by waves of fighters, farmers, and children carrying messages through the dust. For every soldier the Council struck down, 3 more appeared. Humanity's spirit had infected them all. By the time the sun set over the deserts of Thaler, the impossible had happened. The Council's fleet was broken, their armies scattered, their authority shattered. The galaxy had seen not just a human victory, but a united victory. Across the stars, the message spread. The old order was dying. The Council's power was bleeding out. And everywhere, people asked the same question. If the Council can fall here, can it fall everywhere? For humanity, this was never about conquest. It was about proving a truth now written in the ashes of battle. The galaxy did not belong to rulers. It belonged to those who dared to be free. The tide had turned, and the council knew it. They sat in their golden chambers, trembling with rage, but deep down, they understood the age of control was ending, and the age of humanity had begun. The galaxy had changed. What began as a single spark on a small blue world had spread into a wildfire that no fleet could contain. The Council of Stars, once the unchallenged rulers of thousands of worlds, was broken. Their fleets were scattered, their armies defeated, their people losing faith. The rebellion had become unstoppable, and at its heart stood humanity. But humans did not claim thrones. They did not raise banners over conquered cities. Instead, they walked among the ruins with their allies, helping to rebuild what the Council had destroyed on worlds freed from slavery. Human soldiers carried supplies rather than chains. On stations once filled with fear, human engineers repaired life support systems and shared their knowledge freely. Humanity's strength was not only in battle, it was in the way they lifted others with them. The Council knew the end had come. Their last fleets had been crushed at Thaler. Their laws were ignored across the galaxy, and their chambers of power had grown silent. At last, the leaders of the Council called for what they once swore they would never do: negotiations. The meeting was held on a neutral world, not in the shining halls of the Council, but in a simple dome built in the desert. There were no golden thrones, no banners of power, only a circle of chairs. Humanity's delegation entered quietly, not with grand ceremony, but with steady steps. The galaxy watched through hidden channels, waiting to see what would happen. The council speaker, once proud and unshaken, now looked tired. His golden robes were worn, his voice heavy. "Humanity," he said, "you have fought us, you have defied us, and you have changed the galaxy. What is it you want? Do you wish to replace us as rulers?" The human leader looked around the circle. His gaze swept across aliens who had once been slaves, soldiers, and rebels. His voice was calm. "We did not fight to become rulers. We fought to end rule. We fought so no one would kneel again. Not before us, not before anyone." Murmurs spread through the chamber. For centuries, the galaxy had known only masters and servants. The idea of a world without rulers seemed impossible. Yet here stood humanity, offering something no one else had dared. The human leader continued, "We will build a new order, not of chains, but of voices. Every world, every race will have a place at the table. No one will control. No one will be controlled. The galaxy will not belong to a council of masters. It will belong to all who live in it." For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Then, slowly, one alien rose from his chair. He was old, scarred, a survivor of many battles. His voice cracked as he spoke. "For generations, we believed freedom was a dream. But today, I see it standing before me. Humanity has given us courage. If this is the new order, then I will follow it." One by one, others stood, their voices joined together. Not for war, but for unity. The galaxy was no longer the council's to command. It was becoming something greater, something freer. The council speaker lowered his head. He had no choice. The old ways were gone. The humans had not just won a war, they had rewritten the rules of the galaxy. In the years that followed, new alliances formed. The old chains were broken. Worlds once crushed under the council's heel stood tall again. And though the galaxy was not without struggle, one truth remained. Humanity had shown that freedom was worth fighting for. Legends grew. Stories were told in marketplaces, in starports, in quiet homes. Stories of a day when humans stood before the council and said, "We do not follow rules, we make them." These words became more than defiance. They became a promise. And so the galaxy entered a new era, not of rulers, not of chains, but of voices. And at the heart of it, humans stood not as masters, but as equals. The council had tried to control them, but instead, humans had given the galaxy something it had long forgotten: the courage to be free.